Good morning, everybody. Today we're learning about equations and how they relate to the real world. It says the music video for Single Ladies was shot concurrently with If I Were a Boy, as both singles were released together to emphasize the duality of the singer and her more aggressive alter ego, Sasha Fierce. However, Knowles revealed that the budget for the videos was spent almost entirely on If I Were a Boy, and the producers were forced to downgrade for Single Ladies. So, if we were using what we learned from the paragraph on the previous page, which visual representation below best represents the money spent on the two videos? Notice that the money spent on If I Were a Boy is in blue, and money spent on All the Single Ladies is in pink. So we have A as an option, B, and C. Go ahead and pause the video and take a moment to discuss with your class which one you feel would be the best representation. And remember, if somebody disagrees, make sure that they justify as to why they disagree. Okay. Now, after your discussion, you'll notice that C was not the best answer because it shows that it was half and half. And we know from previous that the paragraph says that it was almost entirely, was spent almost entirely on. So that's really important. And it was almost spent entirely on If I Were a Boy. So then let's look at A. Well, you'll notice with that, the money spent on If I Were a Boy is less than half. So that doesn't make sense either. Money spent on All the Single Ladies. Now if we notice this is the only one that shows that the money spent on All the Single Ladies is less than half. And so B is the best representation. Now some of you might be saying, but wait a second, that just doesn't work out because they said they almost entirely spent the money on If I Were a Boy. And you're right, maybe that fraction would be a little bit smaller. And in fact, if you look, you might even make this fraction this big for All the Single Ladies. But we were trying to determine which one out of these three was the best representation. Now, if you would like to, go ahead and click, you'll notice when I go over this here, click on that little button there, and it's going to take you to the video. And feel free at that point to watch the video. We're not going to watch it quite now, though. All right. Look at the Verizon Wireless customers and what they have to choose from when it comes to text messaging plans. The first one is $5 per month for 250 messages sent and received. The second is for $10 per month for 500 messages sent and received, meaning not only the ones that you're typing out and sending to people, but also the ones that you're receiving. Look at the next one, $15 per month for 1,500 messages sent and received. And the last one is $20 per month for 5,000 messages sent and received. So, let me get out of this mode. There we go. So, let's take this down. Jacob texts 2,900 messages a month. So, he's trying to determine which one will be the best one for him. Well, after doing a little bit of thinking, he thinks he should get 2 of the 1,500 messages plans. So, meaning that should be plans. So if you're looking at it, he's saying that one's going to be for $15 and the other one will be for $15 because they both have 1,500 messages. Jacob says that 2 times 1,500 is 3,000, which will cover his minutes. Well, his friend says that Jacob shouldn't get 2 of the $15 plans. Instead, he thinks Jacob should get the 5,000 messages a month plan. So, knowing what you know about equations and saving money, who do you agree with? And 2, why? So go ahead and pause the video and take a moment to determine who you would agree with and why. Once again, if there needs to be some clarification, please do not be scared to justify your answer. What's the worst thing? You get it wrong, so be it. All right, after talking with one another, the reasoning might have been, well, 15 plus 15 would be $30, but if he were to get the 5,000 messages, you'll see that that was only $20 a month. So actually this plan is better for him. Even though he doesn't use that many text messages, he actually ends up saving money in the long run. And you'll notice if you haven't already had to make this decision, you might in the near future, because this is what companies do sometimes. They might encourage you to do one thing, but you have to really know what's the best for your wallet in order to determine which one best fits the situation. Now I know that there's a number of you who are glued to your television sets anytime American Idol comes on. And even if you're not, you know something about American Idol. So let's look. American Idol started off with 96 people heading to Hollywood. Out of those 96, 48 people continued on to the next round. From there, 24 people were picked. Now, I know that some of you are going to argue with me on a few of those points, but just for right now, let's play it hypothetically. Let's pretend that that's exact numbers that happened. So assume that n, the variable n, equals the number of initial participants, and that p, the variable p, is equal to the remaining participants. So, using what you know about equations, which equation below best represents the American Idol process thus far? When I say thus far, I mean to this point, because the rule is not going to be continuous, meaning that it might work for the first couple of scenarios, but if we kept going, it just wouldn't make sense for the situation anymore. So let's go ahead and look at our choices. A is n minus 2 equals p. B is 2 times n equals p. Remember, when a number is right next to a variable like that, that automatically means multiplication if there's no symbol in between it. There's many different ways of writing that. Remember, you can use parentheses, some people use a dot. Okay, for C, n plus 2 equals p, and D, n divided by 2 equals p. Go ahead and pause the video and talk with your class to see which one they feel would be the best one. All right, now that you've had a little bit of time to think about it, let's say you're still confused a bit about it and you're not quite sure which one would be the best. Well, what I would encourage you to do, and something that you can use on your MSAs as well, is put in the information. So, remember what n equals. N is the number of initial participants, and that p is the remaining participants. So, initially, there were 96 people, and the next round, there were only 48 of those 96 going to Hollywood. Well, let's see. Does minus 2 get us to our destination? No, it does not. So that just does not make sense. Well, we know that the number should be decreasing and subtraction was decreasing, so that just does not make sense to us right now. So let's move on to the next one. B, 2 times n. Well, some of you might be saying, wait, 2 times 48 equals 96. That's absolutely correct, but remember, n is not 48. N is the initial participants, which is 96. So 2 times 96 should equal 48, but look, it doesn't. So that just doesn't make sense. So B doesn't work either. Let's look for C. Now we just learned n needs to be 96. And do we get 48? No, that just doesn't make sense either. So I have a feeling D is going to be our right answer. Let's see. N is 96 divided by 2, and we should get 48. Sure enough, that's correct. And by the way, if 96 and 48 are two numbers that are a little bit more difficult to work with, then work with the next group. 48 divided by 2 should equal 24. And sure enough, it does. So, a couple things to remember. When you're working on the MSA, remember to try out the answers. See which one makes the most sense. You have a lot of tricks in your pocket that you can use while taking a test. Also, remember to believe in yourselves. You know a whole lot more than you give yourself credit for. Best of luck on the test. We know you're going to do a great job.